Hey everybody, welcome back to another Sons of Cinema review. My name is Ron, and tonight's review will be on the 2025 horror movie Abraham's Boys, a Dracula story. This movie is a Shudder exclusive. It's an hour and 29 minutes long. It's directed by Natasha Kermani. It stars Titus Welliver, who most people know from Bosch or Lost or the movie The Town. This also stars Jocelyn Donahue and Brady Hepner. So let's get into the story. And as always, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. The movie starts with a scene where a woman is walking on a road and runs into and is attacked by a tall, dark figure we immediately assume is a vampire, and cut scene. Our next scene does a little bit of explaining where we are, and this takes place in 1915. It's 18 years after Count Dracula's death. Van Helsing has moved from England and now lives in a remote house in California with his wife Mina and their two sons. Oldest is Max and the youngest is Rudolph. In the story, the population is growing in California and there's a railroad being built near his home. So Van Helsing is worried that vampires may come looking for them because of their connection to Mina from the events of Dracula draining her right before Van Helsing actually comes to save her in the story. So Abraham, as he's called throughout the movie, decides to tell his sons about the existence of vampires and teach them how to kill them. Next, we have some surveyors from the railroad. One among them is named Lucy. They arrive at Van Helsing's house looking for a doctor because Lucy's brother has broken a rib from a equipment accident. Abraham does some cool ER type shit by taking a dull ass knife and sticking it in the dude's ribs where he relieves pressure from blood buildup in his punctured lung. Later that night, the little brother Rudolph asks Max if he hears the noises coming from Abraham's office that he keeps locked. Rudolph hears scratching and moaning and clawing every night. Mina begins to slowly lose her shit and become sickly, kind of like she did with Dracula the first time around. And at this point, we are thinking vampires may be coming for Mina because of their psychic connections. So now Abraham's doing everything he can to try to help and save Mina. Abraham gives Mina a blood transfusion using Max's blood. Van Helsing really starts to ramp up the vampire training as well while Mina is bedridden. Next, we get this cool little scene with the two sons throwing a football to each other. It's cool to see how they throw the football. Rudy throws it overhand while Max throws it underhand style with a little spiral to it. It's just a cool scene to watch. It's 1915, so what did they know about throwing a football yet, Rudy catches the ball and runs to an open window, Josh Gibbs style, to get away from Max, who's in pursuit. The window is to Abraham's office, and of course they go in. They find this secret door in Abraham's office with this big ass cross on it, and again, of course, they break the lock and go in. I don't know about you, but I'm not fucking with that door. Actually, I think I might be more afraid of what my father would do to me for breaking his shit than whatever fucking monsters are behind that door. When they open the door, they find a woman chained up in a cellar. And it's the woman from the very first scene of the movie who was attacked by the mysterious figure we assumed was a vampire. She's begging the boys to help her. And Abraham immediately comes into the room and stakes the woman right in front of the boys. So now that the boys have made this discovery, Abraham explains he's killed 13 of the undead in his lifetime, and he's trained others to kill vampires as well, including Mina's first husband, Jonathan Harker. Abraham also explains that he staked the woman because she was in the process of becoming a vampire, and he's kept her locked in the cellar for at least a few nights. He puts the woman on an autopsy table and proceeds to teach the boys how to drive a stake through a vampire's heart. He forces Max, the oldest, to drive the stake through the woman's heart using a stake and Van Helsing's old trusty mallet. Then Rudolph is up next, and Abraham wants him to sever the woman's head off, but Rudy doesn't want to be part of the lessons. Abraham grabs the boy to make him comply, and Max tries to help Rudy by pushing Abraham, and Abraham gives him a backhand for his trouble, later telling him, "Look what you made me do." Abraham apologizes to Max because he had never hit his children before. Max is pissed and he wants to leave, and Abraham basically tells him, "Go ahead and leave. We'll get along without you." Abraham is what I call a mind fucker. A mind fucker is a person who is highly intelligent and knows how to use their intelligence to manipulate and make others feel everything is their fault, and that they say shit like, "We don't need you," or "We'll be fine without you." Causing mass guilt and shame to mess with you in your mind and question everything, including your self-worth. Being someone who comes from parents like that, I know this all too well. Anyway, back to the story. Max does try to stay, and mostly to convince his brother to leave with him. But in the meantime, Mina is very sick now, and she's angry, and she's blaming Abraham for her sickness. Van Helsing tries to bury himself in teaching the boys how to fortify their house and defend against vampires. In the next scene, we have Max meeting Lucy on the road, and he confides in her about his suspicions of Abraham somehow poisoning his mother. Mina finally passes away, and Abraham is beside himself. The boys are obviously distraught, but now they feel like this is their opportunity and their chance to leave. After Mina's funeral, an old vampire slayer friend from England named Art comes to visit Abraham to check in on him. Art tells him that he feels guilty and remorse about decapitating his love Lucy from the Dracula story, and he's feeling bad about killing many people. He also now has doubts that vampires even exist, and that he is not a vampire slayer, but just a murderer. Abraham gets pissed off and kicks Art out of his house and tells him he doesn't ever want to see him again. Between this meeting and Mina's death, this sends Abraham over the deep end, and he tries to enlist Max to help him kill the railroad workers. But Max refuses, knowing Abraham is insane now. So Abraham tells him, "Fine, you can stay here." And Abraham stabs Max in the hand and throws him down the cellar. He then takes Rudolph with him to the railroad camp to help him kill the railroad workers. Abraham gets one of the workers when he gets there, kills him immediately, and then he captures Lucy to finish her next. He's full-blown crazy at this point. Meanwhile, Max escapes the cellar, and back at the camp, Abraham is forcing Rudolph to stake Lucy through the heart. He turns on Abraham, and he stabs his father in the side with a stake. Then Max shows up, and he hits Abraham in the back with an axe. Abraham's kind of just leaning there on his knees, and his last words to Max are, "You finally understand me." And then Max chops Abraham's head off. Max tells Lucy with this crazy look in his eyes, "You are safe now. You are safe now." The boys then leave the house forever, and in the last scene of the movie, we get a flashback to Van Helsing telling his boys he knows that he is hard on them, but he loves them both very much. He will always do whatever is best for the family, and he only asks that they have faith in him. Scene. So some of my best scenes for the movie, I thought the medical scene with the railroad workers coming to Van Helsing's home was a cool little scene to show that he really is a brilliant doctor, and how good he is under pressure, and that, nothing seems to faze him. It's a really cool scene, and the special effect is pretty cool too, as they're, it's pretty simple, but it's just blood squirting out the guy's ribs to relieve the pressure, but it's a good scene. Another good scene is Mina's passing. Van Helsing, this is a really touching scene. Van Helsing you can just kind of tell that like his whole world is like falling apart at this very moment, and it's just touching. He's bedside with her, and he just, this is the one part of the movie where he actually shows some emotion. So that's an A+ scene with Titus Welliver. Another good scene is when the boys break into Abraham's office, all the way to Abraham teaching the boys down in the cellar how to put a stake through a vampire and how to sever a vampire's head off. It's all like one great scene. Another really good scene is when Art from England comes to visit. This is a really telling scene. This scene kind of makes you understand exactly what's happening. It puts everything into place. And I'll explain about that in a minute, but it is a great scene. And then obviously Van Helsing's final death scene is another nice scene as well. Things I liked about this movie, the acting is solid, but Titus Welliver as Abraham is the shit. He chews up the scenery and pulls an Ocean's 11 in every single fucking scene he is in. He plays his character perfectly. I also liked that this film was shot beautifully and in a traditional 35 millimeter format with a 3:2 aspect ratio, like the old monster movies, the way they were filmed. This has gorgeous vistas and landscapes and just beautiful shots all around. The score is also fantastic in this movie. It's really eerie and it fits the film perfectly. And the last thing I liked is just the story itself is hella engaging. It's a great story. Things I didn't like about this movie, I had a whole list of issues and things that I didn't dig about this movie when I first watched it. But on the second watch, all my issues were solved. I just needed to get into it more. So that being said, with my final thoughts, look, I'm not a smart man, but in my opinion, this movie is deep and it is genius. On the first viewing, like I said, I didn't dig it. I was confused. It was a slow burn. When I realized there were no vampires in it, it kind of put me in a foul mood. But on a second watch, it all clicked for me. I could be wrong, but my interpretation of this movie is that this is all the way a PTSD story. Now, I'm not a professional in any way, but let's think about it for a second. He was so fucked up from his battles with Dracula that he developed severe PTSD, which made him essentially lose his mind. He is always back in the war for the rest of his life. You know, he began killing innocent people under the premise that they were vampires to cope. Now, did he really think that they were vampires, or was he aware that they weren't and he just killed them anyway? I don't know, but there is evidence to support both theories. Again, this film is genius. We have never had a Dracula story like this before. A Dracula story where Van Helsing is so vulnerable and fucked up from his confrontations with Dracula that his psyche breaks. Also, the way he is with his family, and that he has a single mission, and that is to keep them safe, and how strangers and people moving close to him are the enemy. Those are thoughts of a soldier. It never goes away. We always thought of Van Helsing as this rock that can withstand anything, but in a more, centered reality, who wouldn't be heavily affected from trauma and loss like he was? Van Helsing's final straw was losing Mina, his tether to the real world. And the relationship that he has with his children is harsh, but he only means to keep them safe from the enemy. And it all makes sense. It all makes perfect sense to me. And I know it's cheesy, but this movie affected me deeply. Once I understood, again, the first time, if you're not really into it, you're not going to pick up on a lot of of what's going on, and some of the things you're gonna be like, what's this makes no sense, but in the context of the story, it makes perfect sense. And I dig this movie. I like this movie a lot. You should check it out. It really is great. And especially if you're looking for something that's a little more than just a traditional vampire or Dracula movie, this movie's great. Check it out. And this one goes out to all of my fellow vets out there. Stay safe, brothers. And thank you all for watching. And I will see you next time. Peace.